Oh, hey everyone. I'm just out here doing some dry fire training. In the current environment, I can't stress enough as to how important it is to do some dry fire training, particularly with pistol caliber carbines or with rifles. Like, you don't really need to train into like the bang or the recoil like you need to when you work with pistols. So you don't really have to do that with these. But you're probably here for something other than just hear me talk about dry fire training. So let's get into this review. Today we'll be reviewing the Holosun HS510c solar-powered red dot sight with the 2 MOA dot and the 65 MOA circle. As I have the 507c on my actual pistol, I'm really excited to try this out. Oh, and big thanks to Brownells for letting us try out this Holosun HS510c to check it out and review for you. So let's take this thing from beginning to end. So I'll start out and I'll unbox it for you, go over the reticle, try out some of the features, and then we'll come out here and we'll do some training and drills with it. And then finally we'll take it out to the range and do some live fire shooting. All right, let's get to it. Okay, so here's our box for our Holosun HS510c. Looks pretty nice. So here on the bottom here is all the different stats in case you want to know. It has all the information on there. Here's our Holosun box. But yeah, let's go ahead and get all this out of here. So take this cover off here. It's a normal Holosun box. I really do like this thing. Got a cool little cover. We'll take this little cover piece off. And here we go. We have our instructions. So we'll go through all these instructions to see if there's anything interesting in there. Oh, okay. So the silicone. Oh, another cleaning cloth. That's great. Oh, okay, what do we have? Okay, we have a battery here. So what kind of battery does this take? All right, so this is just our standard 2032 battery, so just like normal. And what's here? Okay, so here's our tool to adjust windage and to remove the battery tray. Use the large part to get the battery tray out, the small one for the windage. And then we have, what's this Allen for? Oh, this is probably to tighten or loosen the actual clamp, because I think this has a QD on it. We'll check that out in a second. Oh, and here's the actual battery tray. Okay, just so we know we have to put the battery tray in. Okay, we'll remember that. All right, let's get the actual optic out of here and take a closer look at it. I really like to look at this housing on here. All right, so here we have the battery tray. Is there one already installed? I'll have to figure that out. All right, there's the QD. The front of that looks nice. The lens all looks good. Okay, so here's our plus and minus to control the brightness and to control the functions. That should turn it on. Is there, I don't know if there's a battery installed. Well, oh, interesting, the optic's on. That's weird. All right, so for those of you paying attention, you may have realized that the optic's on, but we never actually installed the battery. I guess I just assumed that the battery was already installed, but they can't ship it that way. So it's operating on solar power alone here, which took me a minute to sort out why it kept flashing at me that the battery power was low. Okay, so if you want to actually install the battery, put it in the tray just like this, and then you just kind of push it in and lock it in place, and then you can just tighten it all up and you're good to go. And then your battery's actually installed properly, and then when you go to test it, you can actually see the optic, and it won't flash at you like it's out of batteries. And we can run through some of these brightness settings. We'll go through all this when we go outside, going through all the functions of it also. Definitely plenty of settings for brightness, and you can use both fingers to just turn off the optic. Then the way the clamp works is it closes down but actually locks in place. You have to push this little button in for it to actually move. So you push it in and then it'll fling open. So you can't just open it. You have to actually loosen the lock on the side too. So that's actually pretty cool. I like that. All right, so let's see how much this thing weighs so you have a good comparison against some other red dots and LPVOs. Okay, so here's our Sig Romeo 5, just a standard staple red dot to compare against, so 5.3 ounces. And then our Holosun HS510c is at 7.6. That's pretty impressive for an optic and a QD with a solar panel. All right, now let's actually go mount it all up, and I'll show you how easy it is to actually like swap between platforms. Okay, so when you install it, you may need to actually adjust the QD. So to do that, you just open it up and then you can loosen it or tighten it. You can use the actual tool that came with it, or you can use a bit and then you can tighten it into place. So if you have it all set, then you should just be able to place it on the rail, like wherever you want it to place. Put it a little more forward so you have more field of view, and then you just close the lock and you're good to go. And just like that, you installed it and it's super easy. All right, now we got everything all mounted up. Let's take it outside and I'll go over all the features of the optic and how to work it all and use all the functions that are on it. So one of the first settings I want to show you is the manual brightness. So you hold down the plus button and then you can go into manual mode. It'll switch between automatic and manual. And then you can go through all the different brightness settings. There's about 11 different brightness settings. So there's plenty of different settings for whatever time of day you're operating in. And then you can hold down the plus button and it'll switch over to automatic mode. And from here, it'll actually set the brightness based on the light it detects. So it just sets the brightness for you. And then if you hold down the minus button, it'll actually change the reticle. So hold it down for 3 seconds and it'll swap over to just the dot. So you'll get a lot more battery life if you want to run just the dot and you just have just a simple dot like you have a normal red dot or anything else. And then you can hold it down again and that gives you just the circle and no dot. So if you want to just have a quick CQB engagement circle, you could do that too. Or you can hold it down one more time and it'll switch over and it'll give you the actual circle and the dot, just like on the Holosun 507c. The optic does have shake to wake, but if for some reason you want to turn it off, you can just use 2 fingers and then just press both buttons and it'll turn it right off. And then you can use any button, either plus or minus, in order to turn it back on again. Again, it's the same as the Holosun 507c if you're familiar with that. So I think that's enough talking about the optic for pretty much everyone. Let's head out here in my backyard, load it up on my airsoft, and let's actually see what we can do if we run some drills with it. I really like the familiarity of this reticle. Just going from the pistol optic to my red dot just makes my brain happy. I'm already familiar, so my mind isn't thinking or adjusting to anything. I'm just instantly flipping from target to target and loosening the shots. If you've used the Holosun 507c series sights, you'll love seeing the same optic on your rifle or PCC platform. All right, now let's address the elephant in the room, and I'm sure it's a question you all have. Does it work with a magnifier? Yes, it does, but it gets a little weird. Let me show you. Here we'll install the Holosun HM3X magnifier, as it offers a ton of flexibility and placement. It doesn't really matter where you put it. You can get pretty much a clear view from anywhere. The issue is it's a close range reticle that you're trying to use at long range with the magnifier. With a nice 50-200-0, I'm sure you could still make this work, but there aren't really any subtensions to get you out to any of those further distances as you try to reach out with the magnifier. All right, so enough training and messing with it. Let's go do some live fire. For full disclosure, I got pretty excited about checking out this optic, and I actually went out and did that a few months ago. So this is some prior footage. Full disclaimer though, I haven't actually reviewed this footage, so we're gonna be looking at it together. So let's go ahead and mount up the GoPro behind the optic so you can see my view, and then we'll run it through the course. 1 round in each, 2 rounds in each. I can't see a damn thing. That didn't work. I think that last one was just off into the snow somewhere. Let's just put the GoPro offset to the side a little bit, and then I'll run the course a couple more times. So as I said at the beginning with dry fire training, I didn't really find the live fire any different than doing the backyard training here with our airsoft. The optic is super fast and easy to see, even when it was insanely bright from the snow. I found the optic to be really good for transitions and bright and clear for those rapid fire shots to keep the reticle in position. All right, so let's go over the pros, cons, and do I recommend it? So for the first big pro, I'm gonna say is the familiarity with the reticle. I really like how there's this seamless transition between my Holosun 507c and then the 510c. I can just go from my pistol to my rifle seamlessly using the same reticle. I really do like that. And my next big pro, particularly for me, is the QD. I move a lot of optics around between rifles for training or for live fire, and I really do recommend that you do that because that's a good way to improve. So that's why I really like this QD. And it'd be awesome for a truck gun too. So let's say you just had a rifle, you could just throw the optic on and you can rock and roll, good to go. So my last big pro is definitely the solar panels. I used this for the first few hours without even having a battery installed, just by having ambient light. So that's super important. A lot of times I worry about running out of batteries, and this is awesome to see that that really doesn't matter. Yeah, if you're in the dark, that may be a problem, but you don't need a whole lot of light to power this optic, which is a huge bonus. So you know everything that has a pro should also have a con, so let's talk about them. The main con on this one is the auto brightness. And this is actually a problem I encountered with my Holosun 507c. What happens is if you're in a dark area and then aiming into a light area, the optic is often too dim to be able to be seen clearly. I remedied this on the 507c by placing the optic in the manual mode and then making the brightness a good middle brightness. One negative to doing that though is you actually miss out on using these solar panels, so just be aware of that. It is straight up on battery power when you run it in manual mode. So my last negative is actually the reticle, and this is kind of weird because I find that this reticle absolutely dominates CQB environments. But when you stretch it out, there isn't any of the cool subtensions like you see in some of my favorite red dots, like the Holosun 503G or the Primary Arms MD25 ACSS. So then you could engage at these close ranges extremely quickly, but it really wouldn't have much long range accuracy outside of like 200, 250 yards. Okay, so then do I recommend it? Well, I have to say that my recommendation is based on my personal usage, so just know that your mileage may vary. I really like how it has a familiar reticle to my 507C, so I have just one type of reticle, and it's awesome for me and my needs with the QD, so I can just swap between platforms and do different types of training. But if you really don't need those two things, I don't know if you're going to get the max usage out of this red dot, and I would instead recommend the Holosun 503G or the brand new Primary Arms MD25 ACSS reticle. Again, thanks to Brownells for letting us check out this really cool Holosun 510C red dot. I'll also put a link down in the description if you're interested in purchasing this optic. As always though, thanks to our Patreon supporters. I love all of you, and you're the ones that make all of this possible. And I also want to say thanks to everyone that likes, comments, and subscribes. Comment down below what you would do with this Holosun 510C. I want to hear from you. All right, everyone, ball shout. Okay, shh, that guy's gone. Seriously though, don't be doing any of that dry fire training. We don't want you to get like proficient with your weapons or anything.